Tonight, a war thousands of miles away suddenly feels like it's standing in the Oval Office. A missile strike in Ukraine isn't just a headline. It lands on the desk of the President of the United States. It shakes the Pentagon walls and forces Washington to answer the question every ally and adversary has been asking since day one. How far are we really willing to go when Russia says stop or else? Here's what happened. In the last 48 hours, Ukraine carried out a precision strike on Russian forces deep inside occupied territory. And when we say deep, we mean behind the lines Russia thought were untouchable: airfields, command posts, logistics hubs that were feeding attacks on Ukrainian cities. This wasn't some random artillery duel in a muddy trench. This was a calculated, high-stakes hit on targets Russia claims as its own, and Moscow noticed. But here's the twist: Ukraine didn't act alone. These strikes were carried out using Western-supplied long-range missiles, weapons that Washington specifically approved to hit targets that were supposed to be safe from retaliation. And as you can imagine, Russia didn't just shrug and move on. They summoned the U.S. ambassador to Moscow. Cameras outside the foreign ministry captured the moment, and the Kremlin issued a stern public warning. Make no mistake, when Russia does this, it's not theater, it's strategy. They are testing the United States and sending a clear message: cross this line and face consequences. But what are those consequences, and how will Washington respond? That's what we're unpacking tonight. Imagine the scenario. For the people in Ukraine, this isn't abstract diplomacy. It's blackout nights, destroyed apartment buildings, long lines for water, and mourning families. Every missile Russia launches aims to break morale, and every strike Ukraine hits back with carries risk. The question now isn't just military, it's political, international, and existential. Will the West stand firm or back down? When Russia sends a warning, Washington doesn't ignore it. Immediately, secure video conferences light up the White House, Pentagon, State Department, and European Command. Intelligence officers brief the president what was targeted, what kind of missile was used, were any U.S. personnel at risk, and, most importantly, what Russia might do next. Here's the dilemma. Was this just a rhetorical escalation, or was Russia preparing something concrete? Troop movements, missile deployments, cyber attacks. Every scenario carries global consequences. And inside the State Department, officials had to decide how to respond. Downplay it or answer head on. The public response is now clear. Washington says, yes, the U.S. gives Ukraine the means to defend itself. Yes, Ukraine has the right to strike legitimate military targets. No, America is not a direct combatant. But behind closed doors, there's a delicate calculus. Ukraine cannot defend itself effectively if it's tied to only frontline strikes while Russia launches attacks from deep inside occupied territory. Giving Kyiv the right tools is vital, but it risks Moscow's wrath. Meanwhile, American politics complicates everything. The public is war-weary, debating aid packages, energy crises, and another winter of conflict. Voices like former President Trump argue Europe should do more and Ukraine should compromise. On the other hand, a bipartisan core of Congress and national security experts insist if the U.S. caves to Russian threats, it sends the wrong message. This isn't just a story about weapons, it's about teaching the Kremlin whether saber rattling works. Each decision in Washington is a chess move, one that will be studied by future administrations, allies, and adversaries alike. So Washington has two options. One, pull back quietly, restrict Ukraine's strikes, slow weapon deliveries, short-term cooling, but it signals that Russian threats can bend American policy. Two, hold the line, make clear that bases and command centers inside. Occupied territory are legitimate targets. Step up support, even as Moscow protests. Early signs suggest the U.S. is choosing the second path. Calm public statements, firm support for Ukraine, reassurance to allies, showing that escalation threats won't dictate the rules. But the stakes go far beyond Ukraine. Russia's harsh warning is more than a headline. It's a test watched by the entire world. China, Iran, North Korea, and other potential aggressors are calculating, can force get you what you want? If Washington flinches, the message is clear: threats work. If the U.S. stands firm, the world sees that supporting allies has consequences, and that nuclear-armed bullies cannot rewrite the rules with intimidation alone. Inside Ukraine, the calculation is simpler and more brutal. Every strike, every blackout, every destroyed substation asks the same question: Will the West give them the political permission to strike back in a way that changes Russia's calculus, or will every victory trigger panic in Washington? This moment isn't just about a missile, an airbase, or even a single strike. It's about credibility, deterrence, and the rules of international order. Can smaller nations rely on support when facing a nuclear-armed aggressor? Can the U.S. and its allies maintain strategic consistency even when threatened? If Washington stays steady, Russia's public warning will be remembered as a failed attempt to intimidate. If the U.S. flinches, history will remember this as the night Russian threats bent American policy and perhaps emboldened future aggressors around the globe. So tonight, when we say Russia sent a harsh warning and Washington responded, understand this is more than diplomacy. It's a story about testing resolve, defending principles, and the harsh reality of war. One missile in Ukraine has now sparked a chain of events that could shape international security for years to come. And for the people living under the shadow of war, the question is devastatingly simple. Will the West allow them to defend themselves effectively, or will threats from Moscow dictate the terms of their survival? The answer is being written right now in Washington, in Kyiv, and in every capital watching this test unfold.